Today we're making keto low country stir fry. But first, we want to wish our sister and our friend Nellie a happy birthday. Feliz cumpleaños. Nellie is a dear, sweet friend of ours from Honduras. We have befriended her and gotten very close to her. She speaks only Spanish and we speak only English, but with the wonderful translation apps, we are able to develop a wonderful friendship. We love you, Nellie. Welcome back to Cooking with Kayla D. I'm Kayla, and this is my husband, Randy. My disclaimer. If you haven't done so, please like, subscribe, and remember to hit that notification bell for all our latest episodes as they release. And now we are offering memberships, different tiers of memberships. You can go to the Cooking with Kayla D profile, and next to the subscribe button, you will see a join button. If you click on that, you can see the different tiers and special perks you'll receive if you decide to become a member with Cooking with Kayla D. And if you join Cooking with Kayla D, we are sure happy to get to know you and become closer in our relationship. So we look forward to meeting you. Now to this recipe. First, I'm going to go over these ingredients. You're going to need your olive oil or cooking oil. Now let's stop for a second. I want to go over the seasoning. The Creole seasoning we're using by Tony's has a lot of heat. So if you don't like heat, don't use it. But if you like heat, then go ahead and use it. Next is the Old Bay seasoning, and these are the only two seasonings we're using. Now the Old Bay does not have any spicy heat to it. It is just all flavor. So that's how you remember these. Heat for the Tony's and seasoning flavor for the Old Bay. So if you can remember that, you're good to go. So now you know what you can and cannot use in your recipe. And then you're going to want to use a sausage. You can use kielbasa or andouille. I chose the kielbasa. I also got bacon, the cabbage. We use shrimp. If you don't like seafood, don't use the shrimp. Onions, and we chose to use 3 bell peppers. We went with just a little bit of the red, more yellow and orange because you want the sweetness to balance out this recipe from the spice. And I would not use green, and if you do use red, just use part of a red bell pepper. This serves 4 to 6 people, and here are your ingredients listed out for you. 1/2 pound of chopped bacon, 1/2 package of sausage of your choice, 1 pound of shrimp, 1/2 head of cabbage chopped, 1/2 of an onion sliced, 2 bell peppers chopped of your choice, or you can slice it. It is all up to you. 2 tablespoons of Old Bay seasoning, and I would definitely use that. There's no spice in it. 1 teaspoon of Tony's Creole seasoning. Now that's completely up to you. We used the one that's more mild, and it was still really spicy. And then here, salt and pepper if needed to taste. But I would taste it before you add salt and pepper at the end. If you're using Tony's, it has a lot of salt, so you probably will not want to add any of that. And if you're not, then you might want to. But remember, it is spicy. Get your large skillet over medium to medium-high heat. Add your olive oil in there. I used about 2 tablespoons. I went ahead and added my bacon in there and started cooking it. Once it was slightly cooked and starting to curl up, that's when I added in my sausages. So as you can see, I had already separated my pieces. I cooked them for about 2 to 3 minutes, stirring occasionally. Once they started to curl up, as you can see here, that's when I was like, okay, let me go ahead and just mix it around one more time and add these sausages in there. So then I added my sausage in there, and like I said, we chose to use the kielbasa. You can use andouille sausage, and there are different levels of heat, or any sausage of your choice. This is just what we decided to use. You can go ahead and stir that around, getting that stirred in, and you want to cook this probably a total of 10 minutes. You want to get it almost completely cooked through, and you want to stir it occasionally. You want to start building a crust or a texture onto your meat here. So I went ahead and continued to cook my meat uncovered, stirring occasionally until it started browning like you can see here. It does take a few minutes, but it is well worth it. This is a 1-pan recipe, and it is actually a keto recipe, which is pretty awesome. So if you're looking to have a healthier option during the week, this would be a go-to. Also, this is good for food prep because it holds well. It makes a lot. This is enough for a person for a whole week's worth of meals to take to work. Once your meat is browned, you want to get some paper towels onto a plate and go ahead and scoop that out and put that right onto the plate so that the oil comes off of it and you can set it aside. The reason we're doing this isn't so much to get all that oil off of it, but it's to stop the cooking process so that we can then cook our shrimp. Now, if you are not using any seafood in your recipe, because hey, you might be like our parents where you don't like the seafood so much, so then you would just at this point add in your vegetables. So it is entirely up to you. Once you have all of your meat out, you will go ahead and add your shrimp in, or if you're skipping that, then your vegetables. I started with the onions. If I'm going to skip the shrimp, put your onions in first and saute those for just a few seconds. And actually, just hold that. We'll get to that. You just go ahead and watch us cook our shrimp first. Cooking your shrimp, add it directly into the pan. Lay them all flat. You will actually only cook this for literally 1 minute. I got all my shrimps laid out. Once I had them all laid out and they weren't lapping on each other, I began to start using my spices. I took my Tony's Creole seasoning and I took a pinch of it and just sprinkled a pinch of it along the shrimp. Then I took my Old Bay seasoning and I took a bigger pinch of it and sprinkled it all over the shrimps. Once I had them seasoned, then I went ahead and started turning them because shrimp cooks really fast. So once you get all your shrimp flipped over, then it's about time to get them out of the skillet. So one by one, I made sure to flip them over. Some of them were a little stubborn, but it still got done. And isn't it crazy how the shrimp during the off season in the winter, all of a sudden, even though the bag says one thing, they seem to be a different size. I notice when we buy jumbo shrimp in the summertime, they're humongous. But during the winter time, when you buy a jumbo shrimp, it's actually more like a medium to a medium large shrimp that's actually in the bag. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating. I understand. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. But still, you think maybe you just wouldn't put the jumbo available during that season so that it's actually staying the same size. Anyhow, that's just my 2 cents, but now you can see it flipped all our shrimp over. So now it's time to take it out. I'm just going to go ahead and put it right on top of my meat. Now, of course, if you're not doing seafood, you're going to skip this one step. And like I said, after you pull your meat out, you're going to put your onions in and get those cooking. So go ahead and continue to pull your shrimp out and set that aside. And then once you have all of your little shrimpies out, then you're going to go ahead and add in your delicious onions. I did not have to add any oil to this or anything else. I just continued to leave it the way it was. So I added in my onions and started turning those around into the oil and the seasoning and getting it all over there. And like I said, this ended up being a pretty delicious recipe. And I think you're actually going to like it. Now, if you want to add some type of carbs to it because you don't want to be doing low carb, you could always make some heat up some flour tortillas and just put this filling inside of a flour tortilla if you want. That would actually make a great type of fajita. But we're sticking to the low carb here, so we're going to go ahead and just enjoy it. Ooh, look at that. I need to get myself a better knife. I was having some trouble, and I'm noticing that these slices just weren't going all the way through. I tried every single knife I had, even the new ones I got. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I bought the most expensive knife that they had offered at Bed Bath & Beyond, and that sucker's not cutting through. Something's got to give. We need some new knives in this household. You're going to continue to stir fry your vegetables for about 3 minutes, I would say 2 to 3 minutes. Once you've stir fried them 2 to 3 minutes, stirring occasionally, that's when you're going to add in your cabbage. Once your cabbage is in, you go ahead and stir it in with your onions and your peppers, trying to get most of those onto the top and the cabbage onto the bottom. I went ahead and took my time doing this. That way the oils and the seasonings getting all over it. and making sure that I'm getting as much turned over as I possibly can. Sometimes it's a little hard to do that, but it ended up working out pretty well. Anyways, I got it all turned around and stirred. Then I went ahead and got a lid and put my lid on. And we don't have a big enough lid for our skillets. We used the biggest lid we had. But I would let it sit for about a minute to a minute and a half and steam a little bit. Then I would remove the lid and go ahead and stir it again, still on a medium to medium-high heat. And I go ahead and just stir it around and stir it around. Halfway through, I did go ahead and add in, after my first turn, I added in the rest of my cabbage because I'd only put half in at the beginning. And I got that stirred in and mixed in fairly well. And then I did the same thing. After I stirred it all, I just went ahead and put the lid back on and did it another cook round of about a minute and a half to 2 minutes, letting it steam. As you can see, there was plenty of oil. You can see the oil coating all of the cabbage. Every time the lid came off, you can just see it. That 2 tablespoons was enough to cook the entire dish because the bacon actually developed some oil. At this point, if you want something that has a lot of heat in it, you're going to add your Tony's Creole seasoning and then your Old Bay spice. And the Old Bay is where you get your flavor. Remember, Tony's is heat, Old Bay is flavor. Then you'll add in your meat, your shrimps and your meats, and go ahead and stir those in and get the spices and the meats all into each other. You want to make sure to continue to stir this, but be gentle about it. You don't want to break anything. But to make sure that you're evenly getting the spices throughout the entire recipe, and also that the meat and the veggies are also combining well. That's a little bit of a technical recipe, but it was pretty easy. I think prepping the ingredients ahead of time really did work. So that was kind of nice. But I wanted to do that so then I can explain the seasonings to you because not everyone knows about those seasonings. I didn't know about them growing up myself, and I became an adult. And it was like 10 years into my adulthood before I discovered what Old Bay was and Tony's Creole seasoning. And I tell you what, we cook with both of those all the time. They're so yummy. See, you just keep stirring gently until you get everything well combined. Once you have everything all combined, your recipe is actually pretty much ready. I went ahead and let it cook for about 2 to 3 minutes just to let the seasoning kind of cook and open up and the oils open it up. But right here is where I went ahead and tasted it. I just pulled out a little bit of the vegetable just to make sure that I had enough salt in it. Because you always want to make sure you have enough salt so it balances out and enhances the flavor. Well, of course, Tony's is really salty, so it had plenty of salt. In my opinion, too much. But in my husband's, he said it was wonderful. So, it's pretty good and it is ready to go. And I think you and your family are going to enjoy this. And wait until you see how much this recipe actually made. I said 4 to 6. It actually probably would serve even more. It just depends on how much you eat. But honestly, this is like you could eat it for dinner and still have it for 5 days of working during the week. It was crazy. So I went ahead and I got our dinner plates out. And then I got the pan off of the stove and set it onto the counter just so you could see after I serve up our plates how much was actually still left. So I went ahead and served up one of these plates first. And you'll see I fill the plate up. I mean, I really did fill the plate up. I couldn't believe how much this made. I was like, wow. I had originally had this as a half recipe, and I told my husband, I said, no, this isn't a half. This is like 1.5 recipes. It was crazy. So there you go. Look at that. That's a whole plate. Now we're going to swap the plates out. Wait till you see this. Now we got our second plate, and we're going to fill it up. And for some reason, I just don't get it. But like, it seemed like there was no dent in that pan. Like it was still full. Look at that. I'm mounding it out. And look at that skillet is still full. I cannot believe it. Look at that. You still have like 4 to 5 more plates inside that skillet after 2 full plates were already made. So this recipe will feed a lot of people, and it actually is not that expensive to make. It was very affordable. I think we spent around $10-11 to make this huge meal. That is a really good deal. And we only used half of everything. We didn't even use all of everything. We could make this whole thing all over again. So there you go. There's yourself a keto, low carb, low country stir fry. And I don't know about you, but that right there, that's a meal I can eat a lot. I can eat this in the spring, the summer, or the fall, or the winter.
And my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. Now to our God and Father be glory forever and ever. Amen. Philippians 4:19-20.
Here's some beautiful photos in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. We wanted to share some sunrise photos with you out from Murrells Inlet. It was so beautiful. The sun over the ocean and over in the little inlet there. It was just wonderful, and we just thought you would like it. Thank you for being here on Cooking with Kayla D. As always, we say stay in that kitchen and keep on cooking. And we would also like to remind you that if you would like to become a member of Cooking with Kayla D, you can do so. Next to the subscribe button, or where you subscribe, there shall be a join button there. You can click that join button to become a member of Cooking with Kayla D, and it will show you all the different tiers and perks that come with your membership. To subscribe to our channel, if you haven't done so, you can click the icon here on the left, and for more delicious recipes, the icon here on the right. And until next time, we say, God bless. Adios.